Okay, super. All right. Okay, so we got some great questions, and I'm going to just go through them kind of rapid fire. Yes, we are Yoga Alliance registered, so this is an 85-hour program that I developed with Yoga Alliance. So basically, everything that I've talked about is required. And when you do that, and then you do your 30 hours, you can get your RPYT. That is if you already have your 200-hour. For some of you, you might not have ever taken a yoga training, which means you don't get to have the letters after your name. However, generally, nobody ever asks. And unless you're trying to teach at a yoga studio, this will give you the tools that you need to teach prenatal. Depending how strong your practice is, we really teach from our practice. And that's what's going to be most important. And you can access all of our videos and develop that over the course of your training as well. So if you don't have your 200-hour and you take this training, you can certainly start your Ma circle after. Sometimes I've had people eventually decide they want their 200-hour, which is totally fine. I had somebody start something in Marina Del Rey, and she had a thriving Ma circle. It was like, 7 mamas, and it was fine. But she said she just wanted to learn more and wanted more tools. So she went back, she got her 200-hour. And at that point, you take your Ma Yoga certificate and submit it, and you'll get both your RYT and your RPYT. Okay. Next question was the size of the cohort. So generally it's been around, 20 people-ish in a training. And when that happens, we only see, 7 live. So that's basically the feel of it. It's generally pretty small. I get to know everybody in the program. If you're working full time, like let's say you can only go Saturdays, some people can only go Wednesdays, that is totally fine. So we have a really simple community space, like private space on Mighty Networks, which is kind of like Facebook, but it's our own private one. So you can go into the different groups that you're in, which we call training circles, and you'll see, the training that you're in, the yoga of healing, and go to session 3 and you'll see all the videos. And then every session has some home play for you to contemplate, work with, do. And so you'll chat about that in the comments, and definitely it'll be fine. So Saturdays, I do try to make it so that the interactive days, are mostly Saturdays. So generally it's the last day of the training. The yoga of pregnancy will practice teaching prenatal on the last Saturday. The yoga of healing will invite partners so that we can practice some hands-on adjustment. And yeah, none of this is absolutely required, but it's all just an opportunity for you to learn and grow. So I recommend it. But if you can't make it on a Saturday, that is one of those special days, you can always record yourself and share it in our community space, and you'll get the same kind of feedback. So yeah, Wednesdays, Saturdays, some people only do one or the other. If you can do Saturdays, it's probably better. Some mamas sometimes our teachers don't have any students. So this was a question someone had. What do I mean? Well, here's the thing. We are obsessed and passionate with the potential for online prenatal and postpartum yoga, because so many people don't have access to it where they live, or they can't afford it, or they can't afford childcare to go to it. It is so easy to click in, and you're getting experts, customized classes. But it's kind of a new thing, right? And we had a lot of people during COVID, but then, it kind of tapered off. So one of the things I try to at least touch on in these trainings is the business of teaching. And as a teacher, even with us, it's not like a regular yoga studio where we're the boss and you're the employee and you just kind of show up. It's more like a co-op where, we all throw some of our money into the pot, 20%, and you're really in business for yourself. And so what does that mean? It means sharing about you and your energy and your spirit and your practices and all the things that you love. And so that people can get to know you out there on social media and then come and take your class. Some people find social media easy, some people not so much. I try to teach it as just another practice like yoga, right? So when you take on a yoga pose, you don't go like, I am going to get 20 people telling me they liked my pose. That's not what we do. We're just like, I'm going to learn from this. I may or may not be able to do it great, but it feels good to do. And, I know it's good for me. So anyway, hopefully that helps. So we really need to, some teachers really are better than others at putting it out there. And then finally, the scholarship. There was a question just about how it works if you're not in Southern California. So we had, let's see, over 10 Ma circles in Southern California before COVID hit, and they all had to close, sadly. After that, we went online. My whole training moved online in 2016, half of it was online, actually, since before then, the Meyer Veda and stuff. I loved how it could be more spread out instead of trying to give you all this information in one weekend. And then you wake up on Monday going like, I have no idea what that was, but I'm just going to go back to my life and forget about it. This way, it's just little chunks over time. You can process it and kind of work it into your practice in your life. But Yoga Alliance only allowed 50% until COVID happened. I loved online teaching so much. I was ready. I already had, everything kind of organized online. So all the materials and everything. So it was really easy for me to hop on. And I found, of course, that it was just such a gift that I could then start training teachers in states like Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, all across the country that had very little prenatal care. They're like, I'm the only prenatal yoga person here. And then, of course, I get a lot of people who say they can't afford it. So thus the new nonprofit and trying to get grants for scholarships. That said, everything is already completely there online. So if you are interested in starting a Ma circle, and maybe it's not necessarily going to serve, underserved populations, BIPOC, we still will help you get set up. And the coaching is all online. If you want to use our booking and buying software, you can have a location page on our website. And yeah, so it's basically all set up. And we have, for the scholarship, we have monthly coaching just to keep growing your mama circle. That's that. So yes, right now the coaching is only with me. And this is basically my life path. I left the regular yoga world in 2009 to a focus on pregnancy and postpartum, just because I felt like it was a place where we're needed. I don't know. I'm in LA. We have yoga teachers on every corner. So I felt like, okay, over here, there isn't that much going on. And it also just felt so real, and like we got to know each other in a real way in those classes, instead of like, yoga friends. So I don't know. I just, yeah, there's nothing else that I have ever found that drew me away. So this is what I do. I do the trainings, I do the coaching, I do it all.
That's amazing. And I just have one more
Yes.
promise, which is
Okay. All right. So 3 more questions we have. So one question is, well, it's not really a question so much as something I wanted to talk to you about, which is the competition that we feel sometimes as a yoga teacher when we're just kind of looking at, all the different yoga yoga class options that people have around us. And we just feel like, yeah, but I only have 3, she's getting 7 or whatever. The model of Ma yoga was so appealing to me because it took me completely out of that. So we're never going to be famous as a prenatal yoga teacher. Generally, we're just not. We're going to serve our community. And so these Ma circles that we had in Southern California, they were in different neighborhoods. And when Beverly Hills did well, Pasadena did well. And so it really just kind of upended that whole sense of competition. And instead, we were all collaborating and in this together. And it just feels really nice to be in that different kind of model. And then I am going to jump to the question about insurance. So safety wise, did we ever have any issues with somebody getting hurt? And what do you do? So yes, insurance is required for all Ma circles. So it costs about $120 a year, and you get $2 million worth of insurance. So that is just obviously to protect, all of us. However, since 2009, when we started, we have not had any issue ever. So how does that happen? I think 2 ways. One, we become friends with the people that we teach. Okay. So if you kind of keep the 4th wall and you're very professional and businesslike and kind of distant, then we're sort of setting up that relationship where there isn't the kind of nurturing connection. And if somebody gets hurt, they may have feelings like, anger at you or whatever. And so instead, we break the 4th wall and we learn to connect in a really authentic way with people. And I think once that happens, they're not gonna sue. They just, they know you're doing the best that you can. They know you. I think also having these principles, it means that we are safe. We are being safe. So if you think about it, pregnant women are reaching for things in the cabinet. They are, walking and carrying things. They're moving anyway. The only difference here is that we are moving consciously with the breath, with awareness, and in alignment, right? So using our core to support us, making sure we have space in the back of the body, keeping the lift of the heart, all of these things to make it more safe to move. And prenatal yoga, you'll find, is not like regular yoga where it's like, okay, everyone, let's see if we can do a handstand in the middle of the room. Like a regular yoga class, we might push our boundaries in that way. Like what can my body do? And in prenatal, it's not so much that as these principles. It's like there's a different point. And the main one being to make space for baby, to make space for baby in our body, right? In the right places, in our mind, getting our head around all these changes, and in our heart, allowing these waves of love to come through. And there was a question about fertility, and honestly, it's really the same answer. It's these principles. And they are so profoundly healing. And honestly, in yoga, there's nothing else, according to yoga, in the universe but space, earth, water, fire, and air. There's nothing else. And so on the mat, everything we do could fall into these buckets, right? So all the cues we do about space and relaxing and allowing, breath, all of that is space, right? Any cues we give that have to do with engagement and muscles and strength and stability, that's all in earth. So we learn just these categories of cues, and for fertility, and then we can apply them, right? And it's kind of a lifetime of learning how to apply these. But in the training, we'll learn that fertility is really all about that first step. So space, I call them the 5 sacred steps. And when we get stressed, we tend to contract, especially the groin muscles here. So we are going, and we don't want that contracting because reproductive organs are there and we want energy flowing through. So we are going to learn certain poses and sequences that help us create space in all the right places and space in our mind as well. Part of that first principle is recognizing we are not in charge. And this brings me back to the opportunity of pregnancy. It's so often when we realize that it's something negative, but here it's a recognition of the intelligence and the power of our body, like a waterfall, to do what it's doing. And with fertility, it's so important to remember that we're not going to make it happen, and we can't, as teachers, promise, oh yeah, I'll make sure it happens for you. All we can do is create this space for prana to move through. And if the universe happens to offer it up, then we will be ready to receive it. So that's, there's a whole fertility section, but that is just the basics. So you may be watching this later, so I'm not going to use dates, but you can go to myyoga.com and click on calendar to see our upcoming training. You can actually take the trainings in any order. The only thing is, if you don't have much yoga experience, I wouldn't recommend starting with the yoga of healing, because it does assume general knowledge of yoga, and it does help to have these particular alignment principles already. But if you have a lot of experience, I've had people hop in and it's totally fine. So each training is 3 weeks. There's a week in between, and you have your mentorship after the first 2. So what I would say is, if you're planning to go straight through, it's 4 to 6 months, depending how motivated you are. Sometimes the mentorship can take a little while because you're looking for someone to teach, and frankly, because it's scary and you're going to find, excuses not to do it. But honestly, it really doesn't have to take very long at all. And you can do it at the same time as you're in another training. So yeah, 4 to 6 months. Now you do have a year to complete your whole training. So let's say something does come up. You're in the middle of yoga of healing and you're like, I can't deal with this right now. You just email me and I will put you in the roster for the next time we do it, which is we do it spring and fall. And every once in a while we squeeze in another yoga of pregnancy. So that way you can do it live, Or you can decide you want to do it self-paced. So you just pick up where you left off and do the videos when you can, or both. So you do it self-paced and you're also on the roster and you can hop into whatever sessions you want. So once you register, you have evergreen access to your trainings, and that actually includes live. So you can actually come back and do it again if you want. We have people doing that for refreshers, and I love seeing you, so I don't charge you anything. So hopefully that helps. And please let me know if you have any other questions at all.